Good morning, Leadwerks engineers. Today we have another exciting episode of Weekend Workshop. We will be talking about how we utilized some of the level design features in Leadwerks 5 to bring our vision of an SCP facility to life. So we're working on a game currently called SCP Redacted. It's available on our website at leadwerks.com/SCP. And part of the game, only part of it, not all of it, part of the game happens to take place in an SCP containment and research facility. And this is what we came up with. I'm pretty pleased with it. But it was difficult to figure out what we were trying to do. So, okay, there's kind of an SCP style. There's kind of an established style, starting with containment breach and then secret laboratory. You can see some similarities to this and some areas in the containment breach game. SCP-5K, they kind of added some of their own ideas. Although I'd say that game has a lot of variety in locations. I don't think they have a very consistent style. I think they just have they have a lot of, each of their levels. It seems like they're really exploring with the environment design, which is great. But there's kind of some similarities in these things. So, I mean, it's kind of like it's sort of established, but not really. Like, everybody sort of knows what these things should look like, but nobody's seen it. It's still kind of undefined. And that was very difficult to work with. We looked at some different games for inspiration. We looked at the Black Mesa remake of Half-Life. We looked at Fear, a game called Control. So Black Mesa, I think it has probably some of the best level design of any game of all time. However, this doesn't translate very well into an SCP game. First of all, like the locations that occur inside SCP games, they tend to be kind of utilitarian, and they're more realistic. This stuff looks good, but it's like it's also kind of a holdover from like the blocky 1990s level design. Like stuff like this here, like you've just got this like inclined surface here with this striped texture on it, and it's like, well, what actually is that? That doesn't correspond to any architectural design that I've ever seen. And then Black Mesa has an enormous amount of variety in their level design. There's not one style. So translating this into an SCP game, as much as I love their design, it's pretty difficult to do. Fear is a horror game that takes place in a lot of kind of these stark office environments, but there's not a lot to go on here. I didn't really feel like there was anything here to learn from as far as the level design goes. Control is a game that comes up sometimes in discussions of like games that are sort of almost related to the SCP universe, but not really. And although it has an interesting approach to level design with this brutalism stuff, and some of the SCP games have some like small influences of brutalism, like just going like pure brutalism. I didn't feel like that was really the right way to go. So we were kind of like at a loss as to what to do with this, because I mean we couldn't find any game that had ever existed that really did what we wanted to do. But something caught my eye, and that was some games like this. This is Pools, and it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, this is a very simple, very, very simple design. And yet, the materials, something about the materials and the overall image composition makes it look more real than things that are more complex. I mean, the reflections here aren't even aligned. This must be a cube map of some kind. It's not even aligned to the thing it's supposed to be reflecting. So, I mean, the lighting here is not accurate, but it looks really good. So, I started thinking, like, what if we just, took like simple, realistic environments and then just studied the materials really, really carefully to figure out what is it that makes them what makes a photograph look real. What if we took that approach? And once we did that, pretty quickly, within like a month, we had this. Yeah, this looks absolutely fantastic. I'm very, very pleased with the results. And I want to talk about how we used. It was what I like about this is we took some of the level design features that I programmed into the editor. I thought they would be a good idea in the future, but I didn't really know how they were going to be used. And we were able to really make heavy use of them and figure out how to. I mean, this is a really good example of why those features are fantastic and how they can be used to make very nice results. So a few things we learned. At first, our normal maps were way too strong, so we toned those down quite a lot. And then we also played with the material brightness and saturation settings quite a lot. Those were very, very, just being able to adjust those on the fly without modifying the texture. Those were very useful tools to have. So, at first we were throwing normal maps like this at the scene, and our whole scene looked very kind of noisy and grimy. And it's like this material on the left, it looks cool, but if you do that with all of your normal maps, it does two things. One is you end up with a very noisy overall image, and two, like this kind of stuff, this surface detail, this kind of drowns out your edge detail. And we wanted the edges to be very prominent. So, we ended up with a look that was more like this, so you can clearly see all the geometric details in the concrete here. So it was just a matter, these are like stored in two different layers in Photoshop. And it was just a matter of like balancing the relative strength of those layers. In many cases, Rich actually modeled a lot of walls just to get he wanted to get the exact right normals for the surfaces. So a lot of these are based on models that were then baked down just to a flat texture just to get their normal map. And the result turned out really, really well. This baseboard is just a normal map. There's no geometry there. And it looks fantastic. But another thing we learned is that I've always liked having details like this baked into a texture, but I didn't know why. I mean, it makes level design easier, but another reason that it's good is this actually shows up better than if we actually made this baseboard with geometry. This actually shows up, baking it like into the texture like this actually shows up better. The reason for that is basically mipmaps. They act like pre-cached super sampling. What I mean is, when you go like 4 levels down a mipmap, like the fourth mipmap the first mipmap is going to be made up of 4 samples from the original texture, right? So the second mipmap is going to be made up of 16 samples. The second map is going to be made up of 4 samples. The third map is going to be made up of 16 samples. The fourth bitmap is going to be made up of 64 samples. So if you're looking at the fourth bitmap in that bitmap chain, that's like you're looking at an image that was rendered with 64 times super sampling, or 8 times super sampling. So instead of, with MSAA, I mean, the most we could get would be like maybe 8 different samples. With, if we're just using the bitmaps, then it's the equivalent of like 64 super samples. Actually, since you're doing the bilinear texture lookup, it would actually be the equivalent of 256 different samples. So as a result, anyways, like these edges look very, very smooth at all distances. Whereas if this was a mesh, if this was a different texture, if you had a division of geometry here, it would be more jagged at different distances. It would appear more jagged. Even with anti-aliasing on, it would still not be quite as clean and smooth. Here's just some adjustments we made to the material brightness. We kind of adjusted the materials. Rather than changing the colors of the lights to get like a warm tint, we changed the colors of the materials with the idea that we just want to place white lights everywhere. We don't want to adjust the light color. That's not exactly accurate, but it allows us to efficiently produce a lot of level geometry very quickly with no worries about adjusting all our light colors constantly, or having to use a prefab and remembering to use it. This way, it's just we can produce levels very quickly and get a uniform, consistent look.
I just want to add to that real quick. When you increase your texture brightness, be aware that's going to increase the brightness of your global illumination calculation. So you will have to adjust that back. So
oh yeah, for sure.
That was a balancing act. We had to figure out how bright to make the texture and how low to make the global illumination. So.
Yeah, it's like almost when we started like really looking around, like almost no games use white walls. It's extremely rare. So balancing the brightness levels is definitely something you have to pay attention to. Edge turn bevels were used. The new edge turn bevels feature that I implemented for brushes, we used that on everything. 3 centimeters is a pretty good width for the bevel. That way you can see it. It still looks good up close, but you can see it fairly far away. And this is the result. It looks especially nice when you combine it with some detail, that like some lines that are designed to align to the edges. And it's the kind of thing that, like, I mean, I think this looks very good, but it's more like if you're looking straight at it, like by itself, it doesn't look like much. But then when you just add it to the whole scene, it just kind of tricks your eye into believing that. I mean, it looks so much more believable. So that turned out to be. It was nice. I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but I think we made a very good demonstration of like how to make it look really good and how it can be used effectively. We used the material painting feature to add dirt all around the perimeter of the floor. That was one of the things that we consistently saw in a lot of our photographs. And like, I mean, if you just go to like university or actually, I just noticed this the other day. Like when I went into the bathroom at the coffee shop, you have this along the edge. Like everything that's in the corner tends to collect dirt. Even if it's being cleaned all the time, it's still like it just gets discolored. So we didn't actually have to add that much geometry to the floor to get this. We didn't have to subdivide the whole floor. We just added a little bit. We added this perimeter, these objects around the perimeter, and then we just subdivided them in one direction even. And then around the vents, we just added like a 4x4 block. So we didn't have to add a whole lot of geometry to the scene. The trickiest bit of this was actually the displacement map. These things look a lot better if you use a displacement map for blending. And one thing we learned that's very important is what works really well is to have both high frequency and low frequency detail. We ended up using a grass diffuse texture for the displacement map just because it had a lot of really fine detail. And then what I did is I ran the image. I desaturated the image so it was black and white. I ran it through a Gaussian filter, and then I layered that back on top of the original image with a blend. And then, so you can see here, there's fine detail, but there's also like this kind of bubbly, low frequency detail as well. And when you have both of those things combined, what it does is it gives you this fine detail like this, but it also gives you this nice uneven edge. And because of that, we don't have to have very much geometry. If we didn't have that low frequency detail, this would just be a perfectly straight line. So you've got to have that in addition to the high frequency detail, and then that gives you a nice uneven edge. And that way you don't have to like have a bunch of really small vertices to paint. You can just go through, and I mean, this is all 100%, and then this is all 0%. And you just let the displacement map do all the work for you.
Yeah, it was a goal to make that reproducible as possible because we first tried to subdivide the entire floor, but the vertices didn't align to the floor edges all the time. So I made that skirt around the entire room. So it goes from 100% to 0% on each vertex, and then we subdivide to give it more control over where that dirt is. So
yeah, if you just let the displacement map do all the work, it gives you a much better appearance. Because otherwise, this would just be like this would be a perfectly straight line, and this would just be a gradient where you just had this linear blend. It looks so much better with the displacement map. So yeah, this is sort of like, this is about as subtle as we can make it without it disappearing. If we go more subtle than this, then it becomes invisible. So I think we still have some adjustment to do here, but I think this will end up being a very useful feature for us. So we started all of our details. We start like in the walls and ceilings and floors. We started modeling those individually, but we ended up using decals for them. Again, I think this is due to the bitmaps actually make fine details look better at a distance than even mesh geometry does. Because like some of our events and stuff had very, very fine mesh geometry, but at a distance we couldn't really see it very well. And it actually shows up better if we just do it as a decal because of that. The bitmaps basically act like pre-cached super sampling. So yeah, the ceiling, these, what is this? What do you call this?
And like air duct vents.
Okay, yeah. This thing, in this feature in the ceiling, and the light, this is a decal, because you can have emission. Decals take all the PBR layers. This discolored tile, that's a decal. The vents are decals. The puddle is a decal. We just use decals for everything. All right. Anybody want to guess? One of these images is the original mesh, and one of these images is the mesh baked into a decal. Does anybody want to guess which is which? Chat. All right, I will tell you. This is
What says the left is the mesh.
Left is the mesh, and right is the decal. Wrong. This is the decal. This is the mesh. I'm not sure what that is. It just looks like the ambient occlusion here is a lot stronger. Um, is Rich available to explain?
He's here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Why does the decal here? So this is the decal, and this is the mesh, right?
Right.
And you made these, right?
Yep.
Why does this one look better?
That's a good question. I was kind of surprised that after I baked it down and put it in the scene, it looked really good. It's primarily due to the normal map. It's a baked from, a high poly 3D model to get that normal map to simulate the shape. If this was something where you tried to, paint a grayscale image and run it through a normal map generator, you would never get it to look like this. And then, this was baked in 3ds Max. With just one light on it and some nice ambient occlusion.
Did the original mesh have ambient occlusion?
Yeah. The one on the right is a screenshot from in the editor.
Okay.
So that's rendered, with everything on.
Yeah. So, thank you. Yeah, I mean, with if we do like a VR game like this, we might revisit that. But like for first person view, like for stuff like this, decals actually look great and they're very easy to place. So we've had good results with that. Some things that we think can be improved in the future. I think because we're working at a pretty high resolution, we use 2048 by 2048 for our wall texture, so that's 8 pixels per centimeter. I've noticed that some of our details get kind of blurred out in the bitmaps. And I think if I add an auto sharp filter into the bitmap generation routine, I think we'll get better results. I think I haven't tried it yet, but I think it'll do a pretty good job. And then, of course, I plan on adding baked global illumination, sort of this hybrid of real time and static GI lighting in the future. And I think that will enhance the photorealism. It'll give it more of that. I think it'll be like one of those things where you look at it and you don't know why it looks good, but it just looks better. We're really at the stage, with this kind of stuff, we're really at the stage where, there's no single technique we can use. There's nothing we can point at there's no single thing we can point at that says, yeah, this is why it looks good. We're just discovering all these little tricks that if you look straight at it, it doesn't look like much, but when it's like, when it's applied to the whole scene, then overall it just does a good job of tricking your eye. So I'm really happy that we're like at that stage where we're just figuring out how to trick your eye into believing something's almost real. And I'm definitely learning how to see the image as a whole instead of just seeing the individual parts. Just seeing the whole, being able to see the whole image and understand how like these little microscopic details influence like your whole perception of the image as as a whole. That's been a very, very interesting experience. So yeah, nice job. Stephen and Rich did a fantastic job on this. Can we get a golf clap round? Where's my soundboard?
I'll do it.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job on this, and I helped. I made the pipes.
We all like
The pipes are they're the real star of the show, I feel. This just look at that cylinder.
I think one of the other factors that really helps this look like a real scene is that it's not loaded with camera effects and super blooms and just this looks more like what your eye would see than what some overly done camera would see.
Yeah, chromatic aberration.
I kind of like chromatic aberration, but I like motion blur too. But yes, yeah, that's a good point actually. So when it comes to post processing effects, we only used SSAO on this, um, and the reason and screen space reflection, if you count, that's not really a post processing effect, but yeah, and the reason for that is we tried adding bloom, and it just it actually detracted from the image, and what I've noticed is especially I see a lot of this whenever I look at like screenshots from Unreal Engine on Fab, is like everything on there. It's like layered behind there's like this thick layer of fog and particle smoke and lens flares, and they take the shot at night, and it's like they're doing everything they can to hide the scene from you and just make it up for like the dramatic, making like a dramatic image where you can't see anything. And that's so frustrating. Like with this, I wanted the image to be as clear as possible so you could actually see what we were creating. And I wanted to not be able to hide behind any post-processing effects or fog or anything like that. I wanted to just show what was actually there. So because of that, our use of post-processing effects is very minimal, and in the future, I think it'll remain. I think we'll use bloom, but it'll just be around like super bright surfaces in the dark. I don't want it to appear at all on like walls like this because it'll just make it look blurry, and I want this to be as sharp as possible. So yeah, I think sharpening these bitmaps up will make them look a little bit better, and then global illumination, especially like with areas like right here. I think this looks a little bit flat. I think it'll just give it a little extra kick that might push it over the edge into photorealism. Although we're pretty close right now. I mean, this looks pretty realistic, especially if you just like put this on your monitor and then glance at it from across the room, and it does look like a photo. So yeah, everybody did a fantastic job on this, and it makes really nice use of the level design features in Leadwerks 5. I think having a good built-in level editor is absolutely critical for game development. I couldn't do this without it. Just being able to place objects in your scene and set up their properties, and being able to like build the navigation mesh and move things around and adjust things in real time and instantly see how that looks. I think for that reason, I think the level design tools in Leadwerks 5 are very those are like one of the best features, and I think those are super important, and I have a lot of ideas of more things that we can add to enhance that development experience for you. So, before we continue, any questions about that? All right. If you have any questions, if you think of any, just let us know. So the 3D spatialization for games tutorial series is now available. It's 10 lessons in both articles with lots of source code examples, with lots of code examples, and videos. It ended up being almost 3 hours long, almost 3 hours of videos. This is an important topic. I tried to explain like basically everything that I've learned over the years about the way things move in 3D space, because this stuff is so important. And I tried to. It's got a little bit of math in it, but I tried to really just focus on the geometry aspect of it, because what I'm really trying to do is like teach you how to visualize this stuff. So I talk about like just one-dimensional space and interpolation, some interpolation functions within that. I talk about 2D graphics, how screen coordinates are flipped upside down on the y-axis, because they start at the top left. This is 0, 0, and then they increase on this way, and they increase as you go down. We talk about 3D space and visualization, provide some exercises you can do. I'm not joking about the graph paper and the calculator and the ruler. Like, these are things you should keep with you at all times. These are things I have, like, I have many notebooks that I write on the front, like Josh's 3D pad, and I just fill them with my ideas. And whenever I'm dealing with a hard problem involving 3D graphics, I still oftentimes will draw that stuff out just to try to figure out what I'm trying to do. Axis aligned bounding boxes are a simple idea. 3D rotation, talking about gimbal lock and quaternions. 3D vectors, camera projection, how to transform screen coordinates to the world and back so that you can do things like make an object follow the mouse, or display some text over an object. That's in there. Hierarchies and space transformations, transforming points and vectors from one entity space to another. Super important. Planes, very powerful. You might not use them in your game directly, but they're super powerful, and I do so much with them. That's the basis of constructive solid geometry, and it's also the way that I do a lot of the 3D tools in the editor would be impossible without planes. And then 4x4 matrices, just because I want you to understand what those actually are. This is super valuable knowledge. If you understand this stuff, then you understand how to make games to a large extent. The next series I'm working on now is going to be all about game mechanics. This includes raycasting, collision within the context of game mechanics, proximity detection, entity queries. This is like you're fetching entities based on a filter. Object spawning and management. There's nothing really special about that. It's just sort of a way of thinking. So I think that's worth having a lesson. It's just, a lot of people don't really understand that, and I think it's just, if I just explain, you need to take all these objects you spawned, put them into a table, and then update them each frame, and then delete them from the table when you're done with them. I think that'll open a lot of doors for people that are currently stuck in their development journey. And then pathfinding, of course, I think that's worth a lesson. So these are more like ways that you make things interact. That's what this series is going to be about. And if you understand this, and if you understand this, at that point, you pretty much know how to make every game. If you actually understand this stuff, you don't need a tutorial on how to make an RPG or how to make a space shooter, because if you understand this stuff, you know how to make every game. So we'll try it and see how well it works for teaching people. But this is really me just trying to convey my knowledge to you, so that you can use it to create whatever you want to. Do we have any questions about that?
Not a question, but but I really appreciate the examples, especially with the vector reflect, because I can figure out like what I should put in for what vector should I make, I should be reflecting, and what vector I should be passing as the argument. Mm-hmm. And because of those tutorials, Vectronic will be shipping an update where the energy ball actually reflects properly off of the surface if it's at an angle. So, fun stuff. Alright, you looking for the
I'm looking for the... There it is. Okay.
Also, the spherical interpretation, I was playing with that with the view model. Didn't look really good, so I'm not going to go forward with it, but now I understand what that actually does. So,
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so my feeling was that everybody had something to learn. And same thing with this. I think there's still a lot of things that even people who are experienced will learn from this. Yeah, the raycasting tutorial is going to be big. I might end up talking for like 45 minutes because there's so many ways you can use that.
the thing I get confused about is like the radius, because sometimes I feel like the rate, like I can't. It's hard because I can't visualize it in like when I'm actually testing it. So I have to do the extra work of making debugging models and everything, so I can see exactly how it's working. So maybe more detailed discussion about that would be appropriate.
Let's see. Okay, so yesterday I wanted to do a quick analysis of the latest Steam hardware survey because this is some interesting information. I found some information that's pretty surprising. Let's look at VRAM. This is the VRAM people have in their GPUs. So this many people, what is this, like 15%? No, sorry. This many people, this looks like it's about 35%, have less than 8 gigs of video memory. This many people have 8 gigs of video memory, between 8 to 15. So like 8, 12, I think are the common ones. Most of this is 8, but this many people have less than 16 gigs, but equal to or more than 8 gigs, right? This many people have 16 gigs. So, in other words, virtually nobody has 16 gigs. Like, what is that, 10%? Say that's like 10 or 15% has 16 gigs. That's interesting. Probably a little bit more than half, probably about half of Steam users have 8 gigs. And then a big chunk of them have less than 8 gigabytes of video memory. Ooh. Okay, now let's look at GPUs, because I broke it down. I divided these like... I said, okay, the GeForce 2060, 3060, 4060, and 5060... That's going to be one category. That's sort of like the low end of newer cards. The 2060, 3060, 4060, 5060, or the equivalent AMD cards. I put that in one category. And then I said that, okay, the 2070, 2080, 3070, 3080, 4070, 4080, in the 90 cards, and the AMD equivalents, I'm going to put that in another category, and I'm going to call that the high end. That's this group. More than half of the users on Steam have a card less powerful than a 2060.
So like a 50 card series.
Or an older series.
GPU.
And I'm betting you probably about 0.5% of that is 1080s. So, which would be the next step down. Actually, a 1080 is probably faster than a 2060, but yeah, so these aren't all 1080s. These are like 1060s or worse. And that's the majority of the market.
I blame crypto and AI.
Perhaps, probably, yeah, undoubtedly. But the majority of the PC market has a card that is probably significantly slower than a 2060. So like a 1060 is probably like on the high end of this, and that's the majority, more than half. So, based on that, um, I think I can definitely say, like in the future, support for scaling our effects and our shaders and everything. The easiest way we can support this is by having a low end fallback for the lighting shaders. That's a real easy way we can fix this. Um, but supporting this old hardware, that's got to be a high priority in the future, because that's a huge amount of people. Like people just skipped the entire last generation, the last 12. I mean, so that means that like the majority of the market has skipped like the last, what, two, three, four, the last 4 generations of GPUs. The Windows 10 end of life has come and gone and made no difference. I mean, if anything, it's probably improving a lot of people's experience, because it's like, oh, great, I'm not being bugged to install a bunch of updates I don't want.
No, but they are being bugged to update to Windows 11 at every opportunity. Like even Copilot will tell you to update to Windows 10, Windows 11 if you're still using 10.
Well, these people, they have old computers, so they can't. It won't run on their computer.
No, well, Copilot, like even if you log into your web browser, if the signature from the site is saying you're running Windows 10, Copilot will refuse to work.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, again, that's going to improve their experience. Oh, great. No AI to bother me. Cool.
Yeah.
So I don't see this changing anytime soon. I don't think these people are going to have any motivation to buy a new GPU in the next 5 years. So we've got to. So okay. So around the mid 2000s, the first generation Xbox was coming out, I think, and the consoles were shipping with really underpowered graphics hardware, really underpowered stuff. And at the same time, PCs had reasonably priced GPUs that were much better, and so you had a big gap between you had a big gap in performance there, where PC was way ahead of consoles. And that's originally how Leadwerks got popular, is because I was able to take advantage of some techniques and stuff that the console developers couldn't touch, because it was just their consoles weren't powerful enough to do things like deferred rendering. Now the situation is sort of the reverse, where now we have like the console master race and the PC peasants. Again, we have a big disparity in performance. This time it's going the other way, and I don't see this changing anytime soon.
Because you can go to a store and buy an Xbox or buy a PlayStation, but when you try to get a GPU, it's scalped extremely high, or it's out of stock, or some like weird nonsense with it. I think that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty interesting, because now the big companies, the big video game companies, they make all their money from consoles, I think. And so they tend to neglect the PC. But that does mean that smart developers who aren't egotistical and don't think that I'm going to do the same thing as EA does and get the same result. Developers who are smart and understand that they are a small company and they need to operate differently from EA, if you focus on this, making sure that these people are happy, there's quite a lot of customers here that you can pick up. So that's definitely, this is a situation where, there are situations where the small size of Leadwerks and the small size of our community works to our advantage. This is one of them. I don't care about consoles, but I can put a lot of effort into making sure that low-end PCs are supported well. It's not going to be worth it for DICE to worry about that, but I can, and I can pick up a lot of people that they're neglecting, both with my engine and with the game that we're working on. Another situation where the small size of our community is an advantage is the game tournaments. I was thinking, like, I can actually, like, the participation, it was growing quite rapidly while we were doing them. But even then, I was still able to send out stickers and stuff to everybody who participated. I wouldn't be able to do that if this was a much larger company. So I guess what I'm saying is, don't look at what EA is doing and just think, oh, they're doing this, I should do the same thing. Because you're not EA. Like, nobody's ever gonna, like, if you come up with some smart decision and you're successful with it, nobody's ever, the tech media isn't gonna pat you on the back and write stories about how insightful and wise you are. Like, you'll always be ignored, but you'll be successful at what you've done. That's how it always is. Like, you can't just look at what the big company is doing and mimic it and pretend that you're going to get the same result. Like, what this tells me is, okay, low-end PC hardware, that needs to be a high priority in the future. And I think we'll do very well by serving this, this huge neglected majority of the market. Anyways. What GPU do you have? It's a 2021. What GPU is it? Oh, he's typing.
It's a GeForce RTX 2080 Super, and it's paired with linked with a 2080. So it's dual GPU.
Oh, nice.
And I'm developing, so you're absolutely correct on that.
Cool. Thank you for the information. Any questions or thoughts or such things? Are you guys ready for the next game tournament? I'm trying to figure out. I need to get I ordered some merchandise. I received one item that I think I'm going to include. I'm trying to. I want the posters to be really special, so I'm trying to figure out the style. I'm looking at like vintage ski posters, like advertisements for ski resorts and stuff like that. Broadworks is typing.
will it be a requirement that the game has to be on the game launcher?
No.
Okay.
And actually, I don't even know if the game launcher is going to support Leadwerks 5 at that time. I don't, because that requires some things. A lot of people have. Like, once you set that deadline, it's amazing. Things just suddenly happen. Some of them are like basically walking simulations. Some people just use the pre-made scripts, so they don't even do any programming at all. But we always get a lot of interesting results. Um, yeah,
Even if you could do something like cool with the FPS template, just expand upon that, that would still qualify.
yeah. Some people just make like these walking stories where and I mean just look at the stuff on Game Launcher. Um, like some of it is literally just like walk around and open some doors, and somehow people find a way to make that interesting. I think creativity like thrives when you're under constraint, when you have like time constraints and limitations. That's when creativity thrives, because it's like, okay, what can I do quickly, with what I have right now, and get it out in time. And we have stickers.
Yep.
And other cool stuff that has yet to be discussed. I haven't received it yet, but I got one item, and it's pretty cool. Okay. Any other questions or anything?
Are the stickers going to be a new design, or is it going to be the same sticker?
It's a different sticker.
Ooh.
Yeah, these are pretty nice. So I've got one sticker that's just like the this gear thing.
Oh, is it like a circular sticker with the?
Yeah.
Nice. That'll look really cool.
Yeah, it's about I think it's like 2.5 or 3 inches wide. So it'll go really well like on the back of a laptop or wherever you want to put it. I think it'll look really nice. I don't receive those until I ordered like 500 of those. And they'll come towards the end of the month. And I ordered some other I have some pretty nice stuff coming. I just need to like actually see it in person before I get and see what, because I'm choosing between two. I think I know what I'm gonna choose, but I have a couple of different variations coming. Yeah, they'll be for people who have entered the tournament in the past. They'll be, so the prizes they start small and then you work your way up with each tournament. The prizes get better and better. But for the people who are coming back, I think I will have something very special for them this time. Just because it's a very special tournament. Anyways, yeah, so if that's all for right now, the game mechanics tutorial series, I'll have that out soon. Leadwerks 5 will be launched soon. Oh yeah, if you're using the standalone version on our website, it's probably time to migrate over to Steam. We're gonna push everything back to Steam. I tried to build something outside of Steam, and the fact is Steam is just a fact of life. I mean, I spent all of Thursday afternoon updating. Right now we have Leadwerks spread across 4 different applications, because we've got Ultra Engine, we've got Ultra Engine Pro, we've got Leadwerks, we've got Beta Branch, we've got the standalone, and I just want to have it all on one app ID on Steam. So if you bought Leadwerks or Ultra on our website and you don't have it on your Steam account, then please send me a message. But yeah, Leadwerks 5 will be rolled out in about a week now. It won't. I don't think it's going to be Monday because I want to like get everybody moved back to the app ID first, and I want to get the final that last tutorial series out in time. But that's what's happening. So
Okay. So when will the people who are on subscriptions be finally built?
there's what?
So the subscription model, right? You get bills every month. When it will be the last payment that'll be due?
Do you have that?
Yes, I do.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I will. I will discontinue that pretty soon.
Okay. I mean, I'm kind of disappointed, but I understand I'm kind of disappointed, but whatever. I'm more concerned about going back and forth from 4.6 to 5 in the future if I ever have to work on Cyclone again. So that's going to be really annoying. But I understand completely why you're doing this.
Yeah, it's not beneficial to okay, so like just simply having people using the app on Steam, that's beneficial to me, like because Steam sees that activity and it says, "Oh, people are using this app. They must like it. Okay, I'll show it in the
Right.
store more." So
Right.
I kind of like did the exact opposite of what I should have done.
And you have to build like two separate versions, one with Steam enabled, the other without enabled. And,
Yeah, and that's time that I could. That's time that I could spend, working on features or writing tutorials or taking a nap so that I have more energy to work on features and write tutorials.
Right. I don't know. Again, the only thing I'm concerned about is going back to 4.6 if I ever need to. But
It'll still remain available, of course.
yeah, but you have to uninstall the new engine to
You just have to
install those.
switch to that branch. Yeah.
Right. Or what you can do is you can make it a DLC or yeah, like a DLC or just have a branch. I don't know how Counter Strike does this, but Counter Strike has it set up where you can have it. You can install like Counter Strike Global Offensive and Counter Strike 2.
Hmm.
So, and then you get a launch option that chooses between Counter Strike and Global Offensive.
Yeah, I guess
Maybe
you could do that as a DLC. Actually, that would work.
yeah, just
I'll
like
think about
4.6.
that.
Yeah, this way you still have access. Developers who still have games on 4.6 who, wherever they need to update that thing, their game, they still have access to the tools.
Yeah, that might be without having to switch. They'll still have
Yes.
access to it at all times.
Yeah, you just
But
get
yeah.
a launch option that says launch 5, launch Leadwerks 5 or launch Leadwerks 4.6, and then they can always set something to be default, and then when they need to go to 4.6, they can just launch it in the options.
It's Counter Strike. You said that does that.
Yeah, Counter Strike 2, you can actually install the legacy of Counter Strike or Global Offensive, and it'll actually choose between Counter Strike 2 or Counter Strike Global Offensive.
That's
And
interesting.
so I don't have Global Offensive installed, but their file structure is kind of screwed up to support that. So it's like
So even Valve is doing the same thing that I've discovered with their own games.
yeah,
That it's just
I mean,
better. It's just better to stay on one app ID.
yeah, but they still have it available because a lot of source tools still rely on it.
Yeah.
And everything. So that's why they kept it, and there's always other reasons.
That's interesting. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. I'm looking forward to the Winter Games tournament, and as well as the launch of Leadwerks 5 very soon. So thank you for joining.